People used to treat me like I was nothing, not even worthy of a second glance. Kesha Johnson, a 34-year-old waitress at Ray's Diner in Texas, bore the weight of their cruel indifference, her scars serving as reminders of battles fought, not physical, but deeply personal. Enter Brett Davidson, a corporate executive whose arrogance made him believe he could mock my scars without consequence. His laughter rang through the diner, sharp and cutting, encouraged by colleagues who enjoyed the spectacle of my humiliation. But they didn't know I was a decorated combat medic, trained to endure much worse than their juvenile taunts. The every insult aimed my resolve harden. Where they saw flaws, I saw stories of strength. Just as they thought they had the upper hand, I stood taller, my posture reflecting years of military discipline. I wasn't just a waitress, I was a warrior. A nearby patron, James Wright, a veteran himself, noticed the shift in energy, recognizing the unbroken spirit behind my calm exterior. In that moment, I decided to reclaim my narrative. With a measured smile, I addressed Davidson, revealing just enough of my history to rattle him. I had quietly recorded every degrading comment he made, weaponizing my scars as symbols of resilience and courage. In a single moment, the tables turned. He was no longer the predator, but a man cornered by his own arrogance. Position the repercussions of his actions, my heart swelled with quiet confidence. They had thought my scars made me weak, but in reality, they were the tattoos of my strength. I wanted to inspire not just myself, but others like me. Justice isn't always loud. Sometimes it whispers courage in the face of disdain.
Brett Davidson leaned back against the faux leather booth at Ray's Diner, a smug grin plastered across his face.
"What's up with your arms, lady?" he sneered, gesturing dismissively at Kesha's scars as his colleagues erupted in laughter. "Looks like someone didn't make it through basic training." Kesha, her gaze unwavering, clenched her jaw, refusing to let the fire inside her explode. "Better scars than a heart of stone," she replied coolly, holding his gaze. Davidson laughed louder, his arrogance palpable. "Ooh, did you hear that, guys? Tough girl, huh?" His friends chimed in, leaning in closer, spitting out vicious jibes, all while Kesha remained composed. Inside, her memories swirled. The battlefield, the life-saving moments, the brotherhood that came with her military tattoo, invisible armor beneath her skin. "Why don't you just go back to cleaning toilets?" Davidson taunted, pulling out his phone, ready to record. "This is pure gold." Kesha inhaled deeply, her military training resurfacing. She allowed the storm to brew within her, broadcasting calm to the unsuspecting audience. "You're underestimating me, Brett," she said with a calmness that made a ripple of uncertainty pass through the booth. Just then, James, a veteran at the neighboring table, noticed the tension. He observed Kesha's posture. The discipline was there, hidden under layers of societal misjudgment. Kesha turned her gentle smile on Davidson, an iceberg forming under the sun. "You see these scars?" she said, lifting her arms slightly, every motion calculated. "They tell a story you wouldn't understand. I'm a combat medic, not just a waitress. I've seen life and death. What's your excuse?" The diners took notice. The air changed. Davidson's bravado faltered, a glimmer of doubt crossing his eyes. The laughter from his colleagues faded as Kesha added, "Oh, and don't worry, I've also been recording. Your little joke sessions are about to catch up with you." In an instant, the balance had tipped. The irony of her humiliation turned into the weapon of his downfall. Kesha's scars became her shield. Davidson was no longer the puppeteer, but the one tangled in threads of his own making. Kesha's pulse quickened as she delivered a refill of coffee to the table of corporate executives, knowing she'd face their mockery again. The taunts began before she even reached them. "Hey, soldier girl, did you forget to take your war paint off today?" Brett Davidson sneered, laughter erupting from his colleagues like a pack of wolves. Each sip of her own coffee tasted bitter as she clenched her fists beneath the table. Kesha had learned the importance of composure, lessons drilled into her through years of military training. Yet, with every jeering comment, the simmering frustration within her threatened to boil over. "Nice tattoo, by the way. Does it come with a story, or is it just a reminder of your failures?" Davidson jabbed again, the laughter sharper this time. For a fleeting moment, she felt her resolve waver, a small crack in the wall she had built around her dignity. But then a flash of recognition passed over the face of James Wright, a veteran seated nearby. Kesha noticed him straighten, unease etched in his brow as he glanced between her and the table of taunts. She swallowed her anger, piecing together the chaos around her, resolving to remember every word, every sneer. The each laugh echoing against the diner's walls, she took a breath, picturing her past, the scars too often the butt of someone else's joke. She could feel her heart racing, not from fear but the determination slowly igniting within her. Something shifted. Today would be different. Today, they would witness the strength behind her scars. As Kesha wiped down the counter, Davidson's laughter echoed through Ray's diner, punctuated with jabs about her scars. She inhaled deeply, centering herself, refusing to let his words seep into her resolve. "You're not very good at reading people, are you?" she finally replied, her voice steady, a small smile flickering on her lips. Davidson scoffed, waving her off. "What could you possibly know about power?" "Well, for starters, I've held a lot of lives in my hands," Kesha said, her gaze unwavering. A nearby patron, James, perked up, sensing the shift in energy. "Is that supposed to impress me?" Davidson sneered, still oblivious. "Impress you? No, but perhaps remind you that looks are deceiving." She shot back, her confidence blooming like the tattoos on her arm. She stood a little taller, a subtle change in posture that didn't go unnoticed by James. "Why don't you run along and hide behind your scars?" he mocked, but Kesha shook her head. "Actually, these scars tell a story of courage, while your arrogance, well, it's just sad," she replied quietly yet with undeniable force. As the words hung in the air, Kesha felt a flicker of dominance, small but powerful. "And it's about time someone held you accountable for your behavior," she added, her tone now bearing the quiet weight of authority. Davidson hesitated for a moment, uncertainty shadowing his arrogance. James leaned forward, intrigued. "I think you should listen to her, buddy. She's not who you think she is." Kesha smiled, realizing that with each small victory, she was slowly reclaiming not just her dignity, but her narrative. Kesha Johnson stood behind the counter of Ray's Diner, the comforting aroma of coffee clashing with the tension spiraling around her. The mocking laughter of Brett Davidson, a slick corporate executive, pierced through the clatter of plates and chatter, directed at her visible scars. "What happened? A barber with a grudge?" His colleague snickered, the cruelty hanging thick in the air. Kesha's expression remained calm, a practiced mask that held her simmering anger in check. She knew the stakes. Beneath the surface, a storm gathered. Taz Davidson continued his taunts. Kesha searched the crowd for a glimmer of support, her heart racing, but her demeanor unyielding. It was then that James Wright, a veteran with a keen eye, noticed her stance, military, composed. She delivered a measured response, challenging him without revealing her truth, her voice steady as a soldier's cadence. His camera phone captured her, but the power he felt was about to be eclipsed. With a soft smile, Kesha rallied her strength. "You think my scars tell a story of weakness? Let me enlighten you." The diner fell silent, the air electric. There was a hint of respect in her voice, and for the first time, doubt crossed Davidson's face. "My scars are not a punchline," she continued, raising her chin. "They tell tales of valor. I'm a combat medic, trained to save lives, not just anyone's punchline." Gasps rippled through the diner. Kesha had shifted the narrative. Instead of cowering, she stood tall, the embodiment of resilience. Tashi pulled out her phone and displayed a recording of their sessions of mockery, the patron's eyes widening at the revelation. Davidson's face paled as he realized he was cornered. The laughter of his peers turned to uneasy silence, the power draining from him. He fumbled for words, his bravado dissolving into embarrassment. Outside the diner, unnoticed, the world was moving on without him. Multiple phone calls flooded his device, each revealing the consequences of his actions, harsh reminders of his arrogance. Keisha exhaled slowly, an invisible weight lifting as she recognized her victory was not in revenge, but in reclaiming her story. In that moment, she became a figure of strength, inspiring those around her. The echoes of Davidson's ridicule faded as she stood, finally unshackled from the chains of humiliation. This wasn't just justice, it was a rebirth. As I sit at the diner counter, the hum of life around me feels different now. I once stood wearing my scars as marks of shame, weighed down by judgment and mockery. But today those scars symbolize resilience, each one telling a story of courage, perseverance, and healing. I think back to that afternoon when Brett Davidson tried to belittle me, but he had no idea who he was really dealing with. When I finally stood up to him, revealing my truth, it was a liberating moment. His arrogance turned to disbelief, and for once, the tables were turned. In reflecting on this experience, I realized that standing strong doesn't just mean resisting the weight of someone's words. It means recognizing your worth amidst degradation. There are days when I still feel human and flawed, racing against self-doubt, but I am stronger now than I have ever been. I wonder, have you ever faced a moment where your strength surprised even you? What did you do when someone tried to belittle you? Share your experiences below, and let's talk about how we can stand together against injustice. Your story is important.